Good to go.
We'll call to order the meeting of the Tilton Northfield Fire and EMS Fire Station Building Committee of Tuesday, May 27th at 5:31 p.m. Those present: Chief, Kevin, Tim, Paul, Dennis, Lisa, and from the public, hi Helen.
Okay.
So, Derek and Matt and Nate are not present. I did get an email, I think we all did, from Nate, and I would just like to throw his comments out there for the record. This is an email from Nate. I have to work late tonight and won't make it. My thoughts from the station tour and talking with personnel is that their weight room and day rooms are undersized. He was speaking with firefighters there. Also, the patio is nice but not usable for much of the year. So we should prioritize how the building will function during winter.
Lauren, Deputy Chief Robinson has arrived as well.
As a member of the public.
I didn't get one of those things you made a copy of.
Oh, I got it right here.
With the whole
So, why don't we start with the minutes from the last meeting? Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes of 5, 6?
Yes.
Any discussion?
I move to approve the minutes of the meeting of May 6, 2025.
Second it?
Any discussion?
Lauren did a nice job.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much, Lauren. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are accepted as written. So now I guess I'm going to throw this at you guys. What do you want to tackle tonight? Because we had a bit of a get-together at the behest of Mr. Robinson, and we viewed the Londonderry substation on 519, and this would be, as I understand it, kind of a direct correlation to the substation at Sanborn Road. So what I did was a little cartoon of what measurements I took. And all of these interior measurements, just so everyone is aware, are estimates because I did not have a tape measure. I was counting blocks. We were. It wasn't just me. The outside dimensions Tim took with a rolling
Wheel.
footage meter, so they're probably pretty accurate. So, do you want to go ahead and discuss this while it's fresh, or do you?
Who in this room now was able to attend that?
And Nate was there?
Okay.
for Lauren's sake, Lisa,
I
Paul.
fully intended to make it, but it was way beyond my control. I was actually on my way when I had to say I can't go.
Well, that's kind of why I did this,
I'm glad you
honestly.
did this. I'd like to hear what you saw, what you liked. Does it really mean anything to us? Is it at all helpful to us?
Okay.
I'll go first if you want. It was very helpful to visually see another station. There was certain things that kept coming up, like there's not enough storage. And that was obvious when you went into like their EMS storage room, which had a shower that was not usable because it was completely filled with equipment. And then the gear room over here seemed, very tight. their kitchen and day room were two separate rooms, and he noted that in the other building, or other substation that is similar size, they didn't have that wall in there, and it made that space much more usable. They commented that this desk area out front in that particular station wasn't used because nobody comes in the door there. And then maybe in retrospect, that office could have been larger so that they could have a small table to have, small group meetings in. And then the bays were, 74 feet inside from front to back. And they had one engine in there that was taking over half of the bay. And with the engine and ambulance back to back, there was enough room so that you could pull the stretcher out of the back of the ambulance, but there wasn't any spare room front to back with that engine and ambulance. They didn't have their ladder truck in it, so where it says vacant, that's where they have one of their ladder trucks. So that garage was reasonably sparse, and the building had a gabled roof. And it seems like they could have had some mezzanine space incorporated into the building, which they didn't. So they were severely lacking in
So there was no second floor anywhere. Over the living space, it was roof trusses. They had air handling equipment in the trusses upstairs. They had access holes cut in the ceiling for drains that leaked. So they cut a hole in and put a door in, that type of thing.
But it was certainly, and then the only other issues were poor choices in building material. They'd already replaced the siding on the building and some mechanicals that had been replaced.
And that, according to the battalion chief, was mostly driven by this LEEDS program, which is this energy efficiency certification that buildings meet in order to get government grants, reduced rates on your utilities, that type of thing.
And your drawing is a little bit inaccurate because you have that storage room running front to back.
There was a bathroom there.
The men's bathroom was much larger than you're showing on your drawing. The storage room was about the same depth as the ladies' bathroom. And then the men's bathroom took up that space. And it was a group men's bathroom. And the square footage, we determined you could have individual bathrooms in the same amount of square footage. That would probably work better. Anyway, it's a nice station. I like that. Those were like main
His floor plan?
No, he's working on it. I
Okay.
talked to him today. I says, oh, we got a meeting. He says,
Yep.
I'm working on it. But he says it was,
It's pretty close.
It's very close.
Where that vestibule was, remember,
Oh, there was a
there was a bathroom.
There was a rest.
there was a bathroom in there that the
Old
patrolman
truck,
used quite often.
Well, and that was his comment,
Yeah.
is it had a public bathroom that the public never come and use. Police every now and
Police
then
department
sneak in
stops
there.
by and uses it.
So it's not like there's steady traffic where, a public bathroom doesn't have to be a huge thing.
What was in the rest of that space?
Actually, I started drawing my cartoon after we had passed through the vestibule, went around the desk, and we were looking at the officer's room. So,
One of the other things that in the dorm rooms, they had 4 lockers built in with a little desk. And the comment was that nobody uses the desk in the individual dorm rooms. And in the other station, they just made the lockers bigger to take the whole wall space, and the firefighters appreciated having the bigger lockers.
We did notice somebody studying out in the apparatus room though.
well, there were 3 men there, and they were each in a different room. So, take that for what it is. Either they can't get along, or they wanted privacy, or they wanted to be comfortable. They had lounge chairs in the apparatus bay.
Yeah,
So,
I noticed that.
just a little bit of background. This station was originally designed with 6 dorms. They have 3 men there now, full-time. So 2 of the dorms, the ones that are labeled office, have been converted to office space from dorm space. So they have 4 active dorms, 3 men. it is set up for a staff of 5 maximum. I don't know if that, I guess one of the dorms would be repurposed back to a dorm. Oh, I'm sorry, that was their main station, forget what I just said. They have 6,000 calls, 28,000 residents.
It's 5,000.
No, 5,000
5,000
calls.
calls.
And
5,000 calls for how many residents?
28,000.
28,000.
Oh, there's 100.
Well, my initial walkaway was, I don't know what the population is, but I think it's 8,000 between the two towns, but you were
No, it's
thinking about
we're
like 10.
closer to 10 now.
Right. So they're doing twice as many calls, they have almost 3 times the population.
Right. How many stations do they have?
3.
3.
1 main, 2 substations.
So you have
Right.
seven
So-
in the center station, headquarters. Station 1 has 3 guys, station 2 has 3 guys, so.
And another construction note about the Londonderry substation was there was no sheetrock. All the walls were concrete cinder blocks.
Yeah.
So it's very robust construction. No pillars, no wood, no sheetrock.
Their operation, I mean, and that may be worth noting, their operation is a little differently. They have a paramedic that has, I don't even know what kind of vehicle the paramedic arrives in.
It's a fly car,
And
it's
then
an Explorer like mine.
And then the
Expedition,
ambulance,
I mean.
so the EMS service usually comes out of the central station regardless of where the call is.
Right.
And the substation supports them with bringing an engine usually.
And if there's a second EMS call, one of the substations will take the call.
And
So
we
they're
have how many paramedics?
We have 8 paramedics.
We're so fortunate. I cannot stress that enough. So regardless of what shift is on, you're gonna have a paramedic on the call. Okay, so
So what I did, then I don't know, Lisa and Mike told me had their takeaways.
Yeah, I think the hallway tile was worn out, and they said it
Oh,
was because
okay.
it was the adhesive or something was looted. But we were talking that epoxy, a concrete floor and epoxy for hallways is probably a nice option for materials. We never figured out what the ceiling was in their
it was taller than 14 feet. because
Oh,
that's
yeah,
what the
right,
doors
but the
were.
material looked like it,
Oh, with the
he said it
material.
was, he assumed it was sheetrock, but it did not look like sheetrock.
It was shiny, they had some type of coating on it,
Yeah,
maybe to waterproof it or something.
but it looked good, so. just a
Because
comment.
that whole apparatus bay was sprinklered as well.
Yes. So that building was actually designed in 2004. They built their station number 2 in 2006. And they used that same design with some minor alterations in 2011. So
This building is 11?
this is 11, yes.
So I just did a quick comparison of the size of some of the rooms. And as you know, the building we looked at versus option C at Sanborn Road differs by about 2,200 square feet.
In what?
Our design being larger.
They don't have a true decon room there.
No. So that was before decon was really, it was just coming into vogue. The learning about what you really should be doing to decon yourself from a fire just started coming into vogue at that time. And so their decon situation here is not the appropriate size doesn't have all the stuff that we would have in ours.
So in the Londonderry station, you can see on the left, about halfway up next to the electrical room, there's a washer, dryer, extractor, and where it says gear, those were just wire hangers for their gear to hang on.
And just clarification on that, because we had the discussion, the rooms seem tight, but the only thing they do in there is store the gear. They don't get an alarm, and because one of the comments was, geez, there isn't much room to get dressed. They don't dress in the gear room, they dress on the apparatus floor as we do. The gear is, set inside the trucks. And the other thing that he made the comment on, it had solar panels on it, but he didn't seem very impressed with the solar power.
He said they only put enough panels on it to qualify for the lead thing. He says it didn't make that much of a difference or a dent in the electric bill, so.
Yeah.
And they put them over asphalt shingles. So after, a certain exposure, 25 years probably, they're going to have to replace that roof. And they're going to have to pull all the panels off. I mean, I think if we were going to do that, I would have put another roof, standing seam on that side anyway, so you don't have to worry about it.
Well, let's not focus on that because that's not part of our proposal.
They did add a humidifier in the hallway because their HVAC system didn't have that option.
Right.
So we should, when we're putting in HVAC, we should look at the humidifier.
So, in fact, I remember seeing hot water radiators on the wall. And they had an air handling system for the AC.
Maybe both.
Well, typically, you go either gas-fired HVAC or water boiler. So, but.
And you did comment that each room, they had a swing of, was it 4 degrees?
3 degrees up or down.
3 degrees up or down?
Which is, I think, is probably good enough.
Good, because otherwise you're fighting with the temperature in one area versus another. So their dorm rooms are actually much smaller than what we are showing. And they didn't seem to have an issue with the size of their dorm rooms.
So our dorm rooms are 120 square feet, theirs are 80.
Right.
And those were 8 by 10 and ours are 10 by 12.
Correct. And at the end of the day, the 8 by 10, if you have on my cartoon, it would be the left wall of each of those dorm rooms would be stacked with lockers. So if the locker was 2 feet deep, then
Yeah, the lockers are 2 by 2.
then the living space then is 8 by 8. There was a bed in the upper right corner with a nightstand next to it, and I didn't feel like it was compressed. That was one of the comparisons I had done, Lisa, was the size of the dorm room.
Windows in the dorms?
Yes.
The day room and kitchen combination, okay, on theirs they had a wall between them. On ours, we're looking at a combination with no divider on this one. Our kitchen and day room combination is 940 square feet. Theirs was 600. So for 3 men, 350 square foot reduction.
We also added report making area for the crew and the big room as well, so it's an additional usage in there.
They also commented go with commercial appliances versus
Yeah, that's above and beyond where we are. That's gonna be a separate
Oh, that's right, you're.
warrant
Yeah,
article
the FF and
to furnish and fit this building out. It's not gonna be cheap. So, you know, in our day room, they're shown 6 chairs and a table with 12 seats at it. So I would suggest that we might reduce the size of that room. As I was explaining to Kevin earlier, there were 8 or 9 of us in that kitchen, not in the day room, just in the kitchen portion of it, at a kind of a wrap-up meeting. And seemed like there was plenty of room. So I would suggest that we take a look at both the dorm rooms and the day room kitchen. Now, another thing was their wellness gym was 16 by 20. They had 3, if I recall, 3 pieces of equipment in it. Our wellness room is 583 square feet, so almost twice as big. So I would suggest that we could reduce that as well. The officer's office, so when you look at my cartoon, that's the office on the right next to the vestibule. That room was, so it's right here. You had to walk all the way around the desk and then get into that officer's room. That was 10 by 12. And that does not include dorm space, so that was strictly an office. So on ours, we have the office and a dorm room. No, we don't.
No, the dorm, we can't, so HR regulations nowadays, if you have an office where you have to counsel somebody, there can be no bed in there.
I swear I was,
I think one of the drawings had it, yeah.
yeah. I
One of
think-
the drawings, you know, that was, we had HR look at it, they said, oh, no, you can't do that. Well, you leave yourself open for it.
Perception, yeah.
Yeah.
So in Londonderry, if you combine the dorm room and the office, which were separated, it's 200 square feet. If you combine on ours, the separate office and dorm, it's 314 square feet. So it's, the common theme here is that our drawing seems to be about 50% greater square footage than what we visited. The decon and washroom, as we just spoke, I think Tim described that very well. Where we have a separate turnout gear storage room from the decon room, theirs was combined. And theirs was 320 combined, ours is 726 combined.
Well, yeah, what's the size of the storage room? That was
It
something
says,
right here, 225?
yes.
Okay.
So, in total, it works out to be about 2,200 square feet. Now, I guess I'm open for discussion on any of that.
So where they had their gear in the washer and dryer, their quasi decon room,
Mm-hmm.
they don't have any, so they don't have any showers in there.
And the showers in the EMS
Supply room.
supply room, which was
So there's no shower in this building at all that's usable?
not a
Yes.
decon.
Not for decon, no.
That's what I'm concerned about. Just like, going back to like Mike's comment, was talking about not getting changed, there's just storage, but we're also missing
So,
a shower area.
In this room, in the EMS room, the left side of that, maybe the left quarter, the left third of that room was a shower stall.
Right,
That was being stacked with boxes.
right, I understand that, but I mean, the decon room, you don't want showers way over here. I mean, I get, the whole
Right.
point of a decon room is to go into one area,
Right.
and that's the decon room.
Right.
So, you don't wanna, and I'm sure the guys aren't gonna strip down to their tidy whities over here and then walk through to that bread and spade to take a shower.
So,
Yeah, there was some good, if you don't mind, I'd like to give you my comments. I thought I liked the block construction of the building throughout, solid. You're not gonna have any problems with it. I thought that was appropriate. To Lisa's, we discussed the flooring, cement floor, cover it with something, epoxy or polish it or something like that. So you have very low maintenance. The decon room was too small and inappropriate, didn't have all the right stuff in it. I think their fitness room was too small for the equipment that we put and we use for ours. I agree that our bedrooms are larger than they probably need to be, and that was one of the comments I talked to the architect about, but he really didn't change it. I think if we were gonna use their design, I would combine the desk area and the office into make it one bigger room instead of having like a reception area, which was useless for them.
Right.
But I think we kind of have that in our situation here. Where we would have a mezzanine, that would give you access to above the living space where you could have, where we'd have a pitched roof, you could have double doors off the mezzanine into the mechanical space. So you're not cutting holes or having pull down stairways in the living space when you're dropping insulation and all kinds of crap from the attic space into the living space. I think that's an easy adjustment to make, where they didn't have a mezzanine, they couldn't do that. Storage in our building is lacking. It was lacking in their building as well. I think their day room kitchen area, the kitchen by itself was big enough. If they took the wall out and added about 4 feet to the day room, it would probably be sufficient, because the lounge chairs were like 3 feet away from the TV. It was tight.
Well, in the back of your mind, you've got to ask, what are we building, a luxury hotel room? Or are we building a safe workplace for these guys?
So my suggestion, looking at, Sanborn Road's easy. I don't have the problems here that I have with the Park Street station, but if you take that right-hand wall, that's the outside wall where all the dorm rooms and mechanical space and bathrooms, and you move that in, the 2
Couple
feet to make all those rooms smaller, and then the back wall that's over the living area, you pull that one in a number of feet and take that space out of the kitchen, day room, wellness area. You eliminate some square footage there. You might have to make that shop area in the garage a little bit narrower, because you'll have to have a doorway to the kitchen, and if you pull that wall in. But that's all easy enough to do. And then the only other thing I would do is give up some of that wellness space for another storage room with hallway access.
Well, let's talk about the shop just for a moment. So they had, in the apparatus bay, as you're looking at my cartoon right at the bottom, on that outside wall, they had a toolbox, a rollaway toolbox, and a workbench that was out in the bay. And there was so much room around it.
Well, the
There
ladder
is-
truck wasn't there either.
What's
The
that?
ladder truck that was usually there was missing, so that would make a
Well,
big
even with the
difference.
pickup truck behind it, there was still plenty of room, so I'm just throwing that out there. They did have a maintenance room, you can see next to the EMS room, that circle there is an air compressor. So they did have a small maintenance area separate from the tools and workbench that were in the high bay.
I don't think it's realistic to expect that we're gonna find 2,200 square feet.
2,200 square feet.
But if we could, if we could find 1,000, I think that would be,
I think that's doable.
because I wouldn't wanna build their station today. I'd wanna have a decon room in there that they don't have. I'd wanna have more storage that they don't have.
I like our layout.
I do like I like that layout. I just think, right, we can make some of those rooms a little bit smaller. I don't know, the building is square, more or less. If you make part of the building less, so, if you bring in that back wall, does that add a lot of cost to like roof structures when it's not all the same all the way across, or?
Well, I envision this when I'm looking at the roof, that there is the, on the apparatus side, you'll have a gable end there, and then the gable end on the living side would be perpendicular to that, so that could account for that
Yeah.
change too.
So you don't have any water dripping in front of the bay
Into
doors.
the bay doors, yeah.
And that's sort of what they had.
Yeah,
Yeah. The only other thing that all of us have forgotten to say is the door that they have coming into their kitchen.
they had a vestibule.
They had a vestibule there, and they commented that's where everybody comes and goes.
Yeah, that was,
Everybody parks out back, and that's where they're all entering and exiting the building.
It's not like anybody used the front at all.
Right, nobody uses
They
the
don't
front
use the
door.
bathroom, they don't use the desk. Yeah.
So what Tim's talking about is you see that 23-foot-inch concrete pad. Oh, I'm sorry. Wrong drawing. I didn't put it on my cartoon, but if you look at the door exiting the kitchen, there was just a small, like a 3-sided wall there with the roof open.
yeah, it was enclosed though, so you had like an airlock, so you open one door, you go in, and then you can open the next door, so you're not like losing air.
So you were saying all the personnel come in through the kitchen, day room?
And that
They park out
On
back.
this one.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
This
but,
is
I
a
mean,
part
because
of-
ours is set up a little different. I would imagine that even though if this is out back, our people will probably come in right where the laundry is. I mean, their dorms and all that. I would imagine they'd probably come in right there for the most part.
I don't know if they would come in the door by the apparatus, through the apparatus bay, or, I don't think they would come in the kitchen door, because without a vestibule there, it would, you guys would be,
Cool. In the kitchen.
there'd be comments
I guess
made.
you don't
Yeah.
know where they're gonna
Yeah.
come in, because
Yeah.
you haven't had this
we
issue
can-
before.
If you put a
Right.
vestibule, they will use it.
Yeah, so one of these doors has to have a vestibule, I would say.
I would suggest the one that you were saying, the one that comes into not into the kitchen.
Yeah, I would.
The back hallway.
Yeah,
Yeah, the back hall right there, yeah.
So Lisa, if you look to the very left top corner by the ambulance, you see that entry door?
Yes.
Is that better right on the corner, or is it better
I
to
would
be
guess they'll
offset?
move it offset so that you have a corner, a real corner there.
yeah. you would
That
need a-
door can go almost anywhere, right?
Yeah,
to the
that, you
gable
would
wall.
need a real corner there,
Yeah.
that wouldn't be.
Right, they'll move there too.
Well, I
But again,
guess,
these are all preliminary drawings, this is
Constructed
just for.
Right.
Right,
well, what I'd like to do is give the chief a list of things that we discuss, recommend, and, see if we can
You've been
reduce the square footage instead of increase it.
I think to Tim's point, pretty much you're just looking at this section a little bit, and out here bringing this in a little bit.
Bring in
Did
this wall,
that
bring in
summarize
this
what you
wall.
were saying a little
And
bit?
I said bring this wall in a little bit.
Not the
Oh, bringing
whole
this one
back
in.
wall,
No,
just
that.
this wall. because the apparatus big, we need to leave it that long.
Oh, okay, so yeah, so not the
So
whole
it'll
building,
be-
like you said, just,
It'll be 2 cubes.
bringing
instead
this
So
in.
the building has a jog in it now.
You bring this wall in a little bit.
Right.
And then to get this doorway in there, you might have to back that wall up so the
Is it possible to shrink all of these rooms? Decon, no, probably.
I
All I'm saying is if you move
I would leave it up to the architect to make everything fit,
it,
but I'd
okay.
say, you know, cut 2 feet off this side and cut 2 feet off this side and
Let them figure it out.
Yeah. Because they have the CAD thing
Yeah.
and figure it all out.
that's
Well, do you think 2 feet off the back? If we take 2 feet off that right-hand wall, that's all coming out of the dorm rooms.
Yes.
Can we compress all of the rooms by another 2 feet or 4 feet?
That's sort of what I was saying, that
I would,
Oh, spread it across, make that
Accordion
room a little
it.
bit smaller, that room a little smaller, right.
And make that a 4 foot?
oh, you're saying this way? Which way
Oh,
are you
no.
looking at shrinking?
From right to left,
Yes. We were saying shrink the dorms rooms a couple feet.
right.
But I think this just was, what if you moved it 4 feet, and then you took 2 feet out of all those rooms, but then you also took 2 feet out of all these rooms in the middle?
Well, that's what I was saying. I was sort of saying the same thing. You're shifting this, you're reducing the size of the rooms in the middle by a few feet, or
Right.
whatever they can, if they can. But what that does do is it shrinks.
Right, the only room I don't know about is
No,
that.
it doesn't shrink the
you know,
decon.
If you shrink the decon a couple feet, when does the decon become?
Too tight.
Yeah.
Well, because there's no turnout gear storage in there, it really, I mean, to me, it looks like a racetrack in there.
well, it
Looks like you
it has a
could
flow to it,
Play,
you know,
play
from dirty
bocce
to
ball
clean.
or something.
What event, I guess I'm looking the wrong way. What event triggers the need to decon?
Any fire, any hazardous material incident, there's a lot of EMS incidents, you get blood, and, like,
How much were you thinking
A
about
lot.
bringing
A
this?
lot.
Like 6 feet?
More than not?
more than
You
That-
might
That's
hand
only
that
like 326 feet, square feet.
from here forward,
Right.
more than not. It makes a big difference, I think.
Sure.
Okay, Dennis had a comment?
Oh, no, I was just curious, well, if we bring that wall in, I'm not sure like how many feet, I just did like 6 feet, because we're talking about 4 feet. I'm sure it's gonna be more than 4 feet. So if you came at 6 feet, that's only like 326 feet. So, yeah, we're gonna have to move.
Well,
I
if you
mean,
move
if we're looking for 1,000 square feet,
Well, this is say, this is 80.
right.
So if you move that 4 feet, you got what, 360?
Oh, you're talking about bringing this wall in 4 feet as well?
Yeah.
So
The
you're
whole-
looking,
the
you're
whole
gonna
building.
bring this in and this in?
Correct.
Right, okay,
This one, 4 feet, this one, whatever.
Some number.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, so I mean, you could get there close, I'm just switching quick path, that's all.
Yeah, you do lose your box though, for the structure. I was thinking just everything shrinking in one direction.
and keeping it one box instead of 2.
Guess so. I mean,
Well,
I guess the architect can look at both, right?
the issue with moving that whole rear wall is that we're now constricting the apparatus bay.
Right, that's why I wasn't touching this at all. I was saying just move everything this way.
I'm looking at the building as 2 halves.
Two
Right,
halves, yeah.
Right. Yeah, that would almost, that's only like 520 feet. So if you take this come down 6 feet and 6 feet. So that's 520 and 326.
So
it's
you're getting
close.
close.
So it's close.
Right.
So it's close.
Well, since we're talking about square footage, did you talk to Lorero about cost per square foot?
Yes,
And
no answer, and also,
this is so ridiculous.
the guy's on vacation that's supposed to be doing that part. And the other thing that I asked him about the cost differential between 1 and 2 stories regarding Park Street, he doesn't have that answer yet either, because he's waiting for one of the subs to get back to him on one of the things.
I'm not looking for an exact quoted number, I'm looking
I
for a
understand.
ballpark.
Well, they don't know until you determine your building materials. Like the block walls are gonna cost more than, say, a metal walls like the police station has, right?
Police station, the outside is block, the inside is probably
I think
metal
they're probably
studs
metal
and sheetrock.
studs, right? So
What is this proposal
we
for
don't know.
exterior
We
walls?
don't, this is
The
just
exterior is
layout. The
block.
exterior
If you look at the
is block.
design, the exterior here is block because you can see the insulation and some type of cladding on the outside. I don't think we need a cladding like they have. Leave it block. You can buy, colored block or whatever.
Yeah, you need insulation, huh?
Yes, you do need insulation.
But that would be on the inside typically?
Yeah, it's in the cores, right?
Yeah.
But it's,
Or inside?
I don't know what the
block
R value is, yeah. I don't know.
Well, it has to meet code, whatever the code is. And so, the engineers will figure out what they need to do to meet that code.
Is the long-term cost of doing some sort of block that's got a more aesthetically pleasing face as compared to
A cinder block?
cinder block where they have to put something over it, or brick over it, or...
Well, they make block that has a split face,
Yeah.
like
it's
I think
cheap.
Home Depot has it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. They're
I just always thought that was a very attractive station, yet I think as economical as it could be, with the traditional arched imitation fire doors
Right.
that utilized square doors.
Yeah.
I like the looks of the siding, what goes underneath it.
It was certainly a nice looking building.
It was a very nice looking building, one that I think a community could be proud of, but it wasn't extravagant like all brick, all brick on the outside. Is it affordable, as opposed to a metal outside, building, just, to me, that was a very attractive building.
It was, but they've replaced their siding already.
Yes, and
So,
Right.
along with some other deficiencies in the material
Said
that they used.
they've,
Right.
in the, how old is it now? 11, 13 years old, 14 years old? They've put $1.2 million into it since then.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
yeah, We don't wanna do
I've
that.
been paying for it. and you're,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Um,
Don't let them hear that.
But that was their decision on, his choice. We valued engineered some stuff we shouldn't have.
Yeah, which
And
is-
value engineering to
J.
me
Jill
just
has what?
means
Tilt up
buy
panels?
cheaper,
J.
doesn't
Jill?
mean it's valued.
Big concrete
Yes,
panels.
those were poured on site.
They look okay from a distance, but I don't know how they look close up.
What are you talking about?
Tilt up panels.
I know what they are, but where are you talking?
J.
J.
Jill.
Jill.
Oh, J. Jill, yeah, tilt up panels.
Yeah, those were actually poured in the wintertime on heated mats.
Yeah.
Construction, but as I recall, they were attractive, and again, that's got to do with paint color that you
Right.
pick. Yeah, those were huge panels.
So, what are we gonna ask the architect to do? Reduce the right wall, move that to the left by 4 feet? And then the rear wall of the living space, reduce that by 6 feet? Can we take that sliver right out of the center, which is the shop, the turnout gear, EMS storage, and sprinkler, and reduce the width of that bowling alley by 4 feet?
What is it?
Or
now?
2
Where
feet?
are these stairs going?
That's 10 feet wide.
Where are these stairs going?
Gonna make it
Mezzanine's
6 feet
not
wide?
shown,
Those stairs go to the mezzanine.
which is not shown.
It's
Where is it?
above the shop,
turnout
gear, and
EMS.
EMS storage.
Okay.
That's the most of the storage for this building.
If
So
we
is your
can,
question, can we take 4 feet between the outside wall?
no, if you take that sliver right in the middle of the shop, turnout gear, EMS storage, and sprinkler room, and make that instead of 10 feet wide, make it 8 feet or 6 feet. And then that would contribute to moving that that right wall to the left.
6 feet, 6 feet would be
Correct.
too narrow for turnout gear. You'd only
Yeah,
have,
but your lockers are.
yeah, you'd only have 2 feet.
Okay,
Why
so,
not?
So why not, if it's in your head to shrink 4 or 6 feet or whatever it is, why not shrink it proportionally?
well, that's the plan.
Between this wall and this wall, I want this no more than X.
Right.
But I don't know what that
And let
amounts
the
to.
architect.
I don't know what,
Oh, okay, someone.
Right, because I think you can take 2 feet out all.
My new one is the old one.
And then
When you were
you
talking
can take another,
yesterday,
2 feet out
This is
of
not the
this room, that
But
room,
you-
that room.
on paper, you absolutely can,
Let's see.
but where does the what happens to the function?
Right, and that's my comment about the heat. I, you know, I think you could take it out of there and there, and easy
So when
enough, but.
you shrink the building front to back, you would probably have to shrink the shop because the turnout gear, the number of lockers we have to be in there.
Yeah.
And the access between the kitchen and the apparatus room, that has to be maintained.
Right.
And at the front side of the building, you still need that hallway going into the apparatus room as well. I don't know how much you can take out of the decon room. I've been experimenting with that myself.
The air compressor being a pressure vessel, do they have to be segregated, protected, anything like that?
No,
So,
it's
no.
ASME graded.
So the one of the other,
Tank is-
we can get to this part, this is the fun part. One of the other things that you have to understand about this building is that if the plan passes as proposed, Park Street is going to be gone for 2 years or so. This building has to accommodate what Park Street does now in regards to, like, the SEVA compressor has to come over here, and we have to have a place for that. And all the stuff that we own, the things that we like to keep inside have to fit between Center Street and Sanborn Road.
But you're not gonna get 2 full-blown stations passed. No way.
Well, that's-
We've gotta focus on a substation and a main station.
Well, that, I agree,
If it means.
that's what the
we-
plan is.
See this door that's in the front
Yep,
by the sprinkler room?
yes.
I know the layout of the other guys, they had their door over here on
Yeah.
the left. Can you shift the sprinkler room, mechanical, toilet room over, and that would allow you to also shrink some of these rooms?
I would let the architect try and figure it out.
Let them figure it out.
Yeah, because when I start moving with some things, I'm trying to figure out how to make that room still square or functional and stuff like that.
Okay,
At
so
the end of the
let's
day,
just
though,
direct them to,
We have to give them direction.
Right.
Because if we say shrink it 4 feet, what are they gonna do? Or if we tell them make it as small as possible. I'm assuming this is already their guidance, which, as far as I'm concerned, is too big. So we can't say shrink it at your discretion.
No.
We need to
We have
give them
a-
direction.
A number that we're looking for.
What would the purpose of that door in the front, who's gonna come in and out that door, anybody?
Nobody, as far as
It's
I,
just an egress.
So
Got it.
you put, 2 on the far side? That's what they had down there, they had doors on the far wall.
I was just
You
trying
need-
to shrink.
For that space, I think you need 2 doors that are electronically operated to get out.
So they could be over,
Egress doors.
they could be over on the far wall.
So are we gonna set like 1,000 feet, is that gonna be our, because looking at this, we're like, what, 9709 is current one. I mean, you could probably do 709, I mean, if you went to 9,000. I mean, we just illustrated that pretty much. You can get like the 800 feet, probably pretty easily, without a whole lot of freaking pencil sharpening.
Well, I want sharp pencils. That's
Well,
why
no,
we're
I-
paying these
So
people.
Yeah, I
actually, though-
understand that, but I mean,
When you were saying, we were saying move this 2 feet, you can actually move it 4 feet, because they're all they're 10-foot rooms, so, and it's
Right.
12 this way, is that correct?
Yeah.
So you'd
Yeah.
still have an 8 by 10 room, just like,
well, not if you come in this way too.
yeah, but you can't, that's why I was saying moving, so 4 feet,
Right.
4 feet times, what do we got for an overall building? Like
80.
80,
86.
still,
Pretty
it's something, but it's not.
86.66.
Yeah, see, and I was thinking 2 feet this way out of the dorm rooms, and then when you move the back wall in, you make them all a little bit narrower.
You're gonna shrink them both dimensions?
Yeah.
But
This-
if
Well,
they're
then
10
you'd
by
be
12,
less
you could
than
come
the-
in.
It's 10 by 12, so if you made it,
The outside wall.
if you made this 10 instead of 12, and this one, if you had to make it 9, you know, you're looking at taking how many feet? 4 feet out of 8 rooms.
Well, we have 2 mechanical rooms. In the upper right, along next to those dorms, we have mechanical and storage. And in the front, we have mechanical and electrical.
Yeah, I don't know what their, I asked him when I had a conversation with him last week, I says, what's going in those rooms? And he goes, mechanicals and electrical panels and transfer panels and things like that. And I says, so where's the sprinkler room? He goes, I didn't put it in yet. I said, well, it's sprinkled building, where is it? And he says, well, it has to go here. And that's when he put those in. Because you can't have the sprinkler room in with the electrical room.
Right, you're not gonna have any water in the electrical room, so
No.
if you've got
Is
water.
your electrical room sprinkled?
Depends
So
upon what the
We're
code is.
trying to make it less than 8 by 10,
I would
is
think
what you're
not.
saying.
Which
No,
is
no,
something
no,
about-
but I was,
Oh, okay, I was just
Well,
moving everything
you
4
take-
feet.
6 feet of that is right in that one room. So why do we have 2 mechanical rooms? If we eliminate that
Oh,
mechanical
I see.
slash
And
storage
slide
room,
6.
that's our full 6 feet.
So you
Oh,
move
that
in 4, and then,
Correct.
Right, and then you just shrink in the kitchen neighborhood at 6 feet.
Right. Or, accordion throughout all those rooms.
Right.
6.
and then the next question would be, if you come in 4 feet, can you come in 6 and take 2 feet out of all those rooms in the middle?
here.
Yeah.
Did they say whether or not those bathrooms have to, do these bathrooms have to be, because it looks like those are, I don't know, close to 2 feet or maybe a foot, and they have maybe smaller.
Yeah, it looks like
The-
a wall.
Yeah, these bathrooms are sized,
Yeah, see,
Per
we
code.
actually- yeah, you can see that they've got it pretty tight.
So it's one of them.
But
So-
if we
so-
take,
so
I'm
there's
sorry.
2 feet between probably the width of the bedroom and the bathroom or so.
So, when you have, okay, so everybody back there using those latrines, they're not gonna, I mean, is code ADA compliant 100%? I mean, I understand out here, like when they come in a vestibule or a public toilet, but I mean, actual toilets, you know what? I mean, we don't hire firefighters. I mean, it just
I've
blows
had
my
this,
freaking
I've been
mind.
arguing
And we
with
gotta
the
put an elevator to
architect.
get to the 2nd floor.
Yeah.
I've been
I mean, guys have to
arguing,
run up.
I hear you, Dennis, and I've been arguing with the architect over codes on bathrooms, elevators, stairways, and I'm not winning, because when I actually
can't
look
believe
at the,
somebody
he
would make
says,
that
It's the
code.
fire,
Like, you know,
it's the life safety code, it's the
Life
ADA code, and they have to sign off saying that this building meets the code,
Right.
and if
Yeah.
it doesn't,
Yeah.
they're not gonna sign, they won't put a stamp on it, they don't put a stamp on it, we can't build it.
right.
it's like all our infantry barracks, who always have, you know, ADA accessible bathrooms, you know, it's like
Okay, so back,
mobile infantry.
put our blinders on. Back to reducing that back wall by 6 feet. can we remove that mechanical slash storage room?
I will have to ask the architect, because I don't know what's supposed,
Okay.
whether it's air handling equipment that's supposed to go in there, or I don't know.
Don't
Does it make a
ask.
difference?
I don't know.
Don't ask, tell. We need 6 feet out of that back wall, and we need a minimum of 4 feet off that right wall.
I would give $1 just to hear what Kevin's thinking, because he hasn't said it.
Who else is taking them? Who else? Anyone else?
I don't carry cash
I
anymore.
thought it was a penny for your thoughts.
So-
I got,
Freaking
you
inflation.
got Venmo?
I don't think I learned
pennies,
that.
right?
I learned
Moved
that.
right up to a
Yeah, me too.
So, I go to a lot of committee meetings time to time, here and there. And I always come away with this. Those poor people in that committee, they're trying to do something, they don't have any idea what the hell they're doing. I can build a building, I've built a lot of buildings, I never built a fire station. And the truth is, I don't know a goddamn thing about building a fire station. I watched the committee last week spend way too much money for too little product. And the problem is, no one on the committee knew what the hell they were doing. I'm not saying we're stupid people, because we're not a one of us. But when it comes right down to it, we are following a charge that is really a backdoor charge that's changed more times than I want to count. And now we're gonna say, move this wall 2 feet, move that one. Where is the net, I hate the word savings, net reduction in cost? What's the end result? Because we just talked about 700 square feet. At $500 a square foot, that's $350,000. 350,000, 20 million. What difference does that make at that point? 350,000 on 20 million. You can spit 1,000 times that difference, and it don't make any difference. We're going wide open to do our best, and we are headed for the proverbial brick wall.
To your point, though, I think we're saving a lot more money square foot. Like, this is definitely the more expensive portion of the building. So we
Absolutely.
can't really apply a generic square footage cost to, and making that reduction that we're talking about right there is 642.5 feet. So it's not 1,000 feet, it's not 700 feet. So whatever this is, again, is gonna be a lot more expensive, but I understand your point. I hear what you're saying.
But if we can save 350 on this building, and we can save 350 on the other building, now you're talking real money. But the bottom line is that the architect is not paying for this. So he's, for instance, what's in that mechanical slash storage room? Why did he put it in there? Was it because he had that space he had to fill?
But, I mean, I think I'm right. They've done this before.
No, they haven't.
Well,
The architect that we hired retired. This is a young kid who's never done a fire station before.
Is that a fact?
That's a fact. I don't know if he's ever done a fire station before, but in my workings with him, he doesn't understand fire station like I do, or any of the, he doesn't understand flow and things like that, but he knows how big things need to be, and he knows code. He knows code for sure.
We gotta get him to learn cost.
That's not his job.
That's not
There's
his-
there's
yeah.
somebody
It's not
else
his
that has a job
Okay.
for cost.
So that's our job. That's why I'm adamant that we've gotta determine what every square foot of this building is being used for, and can we reduce it?
probably mine, sorry.
That'd be mine
All right,
too.
I just shut.
I don't have
Right.
mine anyways. I'm deaf. Certified deaf. I had my physical the other day.
First thing I did was.
So-
I'm going there too. Anyway,
let's summarize and determine what guidance we're gonna give the chief to give to the architect.
Well, how I would summarize that is, I agree. Take the fire chief's recommendations, we need this much space, we need this much equipment to fit in the building, this is what they came up with. Okay, now, we want to do our due diligence and question whether the space is appropriate. That's what I feel like our role is. And if we're sitting here looking at another station and we go, okay, that's a nice station, it's a good looking station, they get the job done, they've got all these rooms, and they're at this much square footage, and we need to have a couple more spaces they don't, what does that add to the square footage? We're way over that, where do we make some cuts? And I think the suggestion for Lorero would be, if I can summarize, is we can make some of these rooms smaller. Do we need this mechanical storage room? Can it all be, can the other one be broken into two? Can we put it somewhere else? Can we move that wall in, take a few feet out of each one of these rooms, and a few feet out of the inside rooms, and give them a recommendation that these rooms don't need to be 10 by 12, they can be 10 by 10 or 8 by 10.
8.
And then, can we take a couple feet out of all these rooms in the middle to bring this wall in 4 to 6 feet? And then the back wall, can we bring that in 6 feet by eliminating that mechanical storage room and taking a few feet out of the kitchen day room, you know, a foot or two out of the wellness room, and bring that back wall in and see what they come up with. And let them tell us why we can't take that mechanical room out and why you can't make those rooms that small.
He doesn't know, he's never done this before.
From a code perspective, he might tell you that you can't make that room that small, but if he can't tell us
So,
why you can't.
relative to code, whose code is it? Who's the the enforcer, and what's,
The fire chief.
Of the life safety code,
The
NFPA 1 and NFPA 101. I am the authority having jurisdiction. But
The
I am
state
not-
fire marshal
I am-
will review these things.
Right.
Yes, but I am not the authority on the building code, which is, and I am not the authority on the ADA code. I am not the authority on the, part of the building code is the insulation requirements. I'm a life safety guy.
So,
And I have a guy for that.
does everyone agree with Tim's summary, and does anyone want to add anything to Tim's summary? So that we can give the chief direction to talk with Lorero.
I guess my only, to take it down to a little more detail, I mean, do we wanna give them, like, how much, did you say exactly how much to shrink it? Are we gonna give them, like, a square footage? Here's what we want, work with that?
Here's what we want, what can we get?
Right.
Right.
Well, and along the lines that you're talking about, those who went down to that other station, was that a very functionable station for the 3 people that were in it?
So-
We had- And, remember, our firefighters are not going there for a week or 2 weeks at a time. They come in for a shift. They typically spend a night, sometimes 2. And they go to bed the same time you and I go to bed, and they get up the same time you and I get up, unless there's a call in the middle of the night. And throughout the day, they're training, they're making repairs. I was kind of surprised when we were there. Those guys didn't do a damn thing all the time we were there.
Right, so you were
So-
talking about their personnel, right?
in that
Yes.
time, how many calls were here?
Probably 2 or 3.
Yeah, they had no calls.
They had no calls, and
So-
nobody moved from any one of the rooms. But that's an operational issue. But the point is, that size of the building for a I mean, to me, it looks like that building was designed for 6 people. It allowed for expansion. And if there were 6 people in that building, I truly believe functionally day-to-day things, never mind storage, improvements that we have to make to, decon rooms. That was a nice space that I think could accommodate 6 people very easily.
The other thing that I noticed about the crew there, which is different, each fire department has a different culture. Our culture is different than their culture. Like, we congregate, we're together all the time.
Yeah.
Nobody goes off by themselves.
Which
When was
justifies
this
smaller rooms.
What's that?
2011.
This was built in 11.
Yeah.
They spent over $1 million doing the whoopses in 13 years.
And according to the battalion chief, the bulk of those whoopses were leads related.
So, was that battalion chief here when they built this?
No.
So,
But he's in charge of the facilities. And
but he wasn't then.
No, his boss was in charge of it beforehand, and so, who was still working there, so.
So as management changes roles, you get different wants, needs, and desires. Because we've been told by every fire chief since I moved to town, we need this, we need this, we need this, we need this. And none of those we needs this are the same. So whatever we do will be different than the presumptive next chief wants to deal with.
If I heard these guys correctly, I don't think that 1.3 million was needs, wants, and desires. I think that was shoddy material.
I thought he said they got participation on.
They got federal funding on the Reed.
No, but I mean on the things that went bad, there was 1 or 2, didn't he say that they got help on it because of the product, or I don't.
It was the siding, it was that concrete, cement-based
Yeah.
siding.
Yeah, and they got participation on that.
Right.
I mean, a good deal of what we're discussing is based on current chief input.
I don't know his name.
We get a new chief, guess what? Input's gonna be different. You can bet anything you ever have
I don't
on
know
it.
about
Well,
siding and
sorry,
stuff like
that's
that.
not-
I'm not talking about
Yeah.
siding, I'm talking about the layout of the building and how many buildings.
Well, we don't want to change the layout, we just want to reduce space. I think we need, to if we're going to ever get anything built, we need to keep moving in one direction. Because we have been doing this for the last 20 years.
We've been the squirrel.
Yes.
Cars coming, here's a squirrel,
So
right?
I think, I mean, my personal opinion, I like this layout. Based on what he's told us on the flow of the firefighters. But do you need a 10 by 12 bedroom? I have a bedroom at
I think
home.
that's extravagant.
I have a bedroom at home that is 10 by 10 and it's got a queen size bed. Okay. So I don't think there's anything wrong with us asking the architect to make those 8 by 10 or
Right.
shrink it
Right.
appropriately. Especially if, you know, they're saying they don't even need the desk in there.
I mean, from what I understand, I mean, most of them, like you said, the culture is they congregate. I think
If you ever
I think
go to the fire station, right, they're all in the,
yeah.
Which is
That
good.
door.
I
That's
think
a
if
good
they're in
thing.
their, I think if they're in their rooms,
It's always
they're
been,
catching some shut-eye before they get
Right.
toned out again.
it's always been, that way, it's always been different. I can tell you, the first full-time fire station I ever went in was Laconia. When they had 3 stations, they had Central, Lakeport, Weirs Beach. And those people, they worked in the same station. They had people they worked with all the time. And you go to Weirs Beach with Captain Nair back then. The guys all got along with it together. And then one of the lieutenants had Lakeport. And they are totally, even though it was the same department, the people that worked in each station were all, their guys are all in that station. It's just, it's, I don't know if I've ever seen any other group like that, where everyone works together. Even you know, one department here, we're all together in one place. The other cities that had 3, now they have 2 stations, it's still, it's different.
It always will be. People are different.
That truly is.
Can I throw the ball
I
back on?
just wanted to ask a couple of questions, just for my clarification. The first one is about the turnout gear. There's 23 slots in there. Is there something about it that means we have to have 23 slots? I don't understand that.
So when, we do need extra slots for now, and in the future, we might be able to make it a little smaller, but we need that because there's 16 guys on the floor, then there's the deputy, the chief, who may have storage there. Right now, it's gonna be all
You're
mixed
gonna have
up.
16 guys on the floor, but only 4.
It
Oh,
needs-
because
But they
of
all
the
shift.
Yes.
Okay,
Shift.
okay, so it's making sense. I didn't understand that. Okay,
And they all have 2 sets of gear, right?
Yes.
right, okay.
That's probably actually the most underutilized room in the building. I mean, it's gotta be that big for a reason, and
Yeah.
you can shrink whatever you want, but you've got that space.
Yeah.
The size of the turnout gear and stuff like that, the lockers are 2 by 2. You can make them
No,
any
I
smaller than
just- I
that, the
was
stuff
just
is
asking,
falling
now I
all over the
understand,
place.
That's fine. So the other question I had is there some reason that the bay doors on the opposite walls are not in sync with each other? And I'm looking at C, and C shows them misaligned. So you can't just drive straight out.
Thank you.
Well, that's,
I don't think, are they misaligned?
Well,
Are
I'm
you looking at Park Street or
option-
Sandy
I'm
Road?
looking at option C.
Okay.
they look aligned to me, but
4 feet to the edge of the door, 1'4" plus 2'8", that's
No,
4
if
feet.
you look, the bay doors here are offset.
you got an old plan, forget it.
That's
Ah.
option
That's
C.
gone,
It says
Chief,
option
you're a
C.
little
yeah,
bridge.
but that's an old option.
There can only be one. We gotta get
Yeah,
this
they
through
gotta
to
get-
the architect. There can only be one drawing with a Rev C on it.
Well, there's obviously
But
2
the
then.
other side to your question, Helen, you typically would never drive all the way through.
There's usually back to back.
I get that, but you should have the, you shouldn't have to put your truck here and have it half on the door, is what I'm saying.
They corrected that.
You know, at the,
So
at
they
the
corrected it,
dealership,
and
we
they put
put
the
a
outside door there,
3-bay
okay.
drive and has a
You can
nice
take that
turn
up
in
and
it.
see.
We're like, oh,
You want this?
it's
I
worked
think it's
for
actually.
14 years. Nobody's taken on any of the glass. Now I
Okay.
say that.
Guess what?
Tomorrow when there's
That's none
something
of your
drive
phone
right
numbers.
through.
Two other years, but we're missing 1 street out of this, but that's
Oh, no.
Park
This is-
Street via Park, this is option B. Is missing Park Street, that's all.
The only other comment I would have for Lorero is, we need not to be drawing 6 chairs in the day room. We need not to be drawing 12 chairs around the table.
Good point.
Just a
Oh,
visual.
that's an architectural thing, they just say, put a table here, how many chairs, boom.
Yeah,
It's a image.
yeah. Well, put a smaller image there.
Oh, you want less or less?
4 chairs
Four
in
chairs.
front of the TV.
I mean, it looks like we're hiring 6
maybe.
guys. We got 6 chairs here in front of the
Okay.
He
table.
loves,
Well, somebody might come visit. I don't,
Well, I don't care how many
We do have
chairs they
design.
actually have. I just don't want
But
to.
when you're trying to get
oh.
a yay vote on the.
Yay
yeah.
vote, that looks
So
like a
like, why do we
party,
have so
party
many
room.
chairs?
How much
Okay.
do those cost?
Yeah.
That's true, image-wise, I guess.
Yeah.
You want them to show 4 chairs, is that what you're saying?
And, you know,
Regardless of whether you
Right.
end up buying
and
it.
these mechanical rooms, it would be helpful to know what, you know,
What's in each?
right, is that the electrical room and
Well, they gotta have
One's
an
for
HVAC.
HVAC and one's for sprinkler and I get it.
I mean,
And do you
Are
put
we-
mechanical with or?
depends upon what we have for mechanicals. Are we gonna have a boiler where we're gonna have, radiant floor heating? Are we just gonna not have that and just go with one HVAC system that does both heat and cooling? The apparatus room, is it just gonna be unit heaters, or is that floor gonna be radiated or not? Which, this, maybe, because the more stuff you have, the more space you need to handle that
Right.
stuff. I mean, if it's just HVAC stuff, you could put that in the attic. You don't really need,
Because it's just an air handler.
And you, but,
What else can go upstairs? But you can gain a room, I think, in roof
Insulation.
trusses, right?
insulation.
Anything that can go up there that you don't use every damn day.
no,
Well,
Well,
even
that's what
if,
Air
the,
circulators,
that's
things
what
like
the
that.
massive-
Well, we don't know
Even
what
if-
our roof line is, right?
even if you had an air handler in the apparatus bay with ductwork that runs upstairs to the other areas, you know, it,
So the ventilation system in the apparatus room is gonna be totally separate from the rest of the building. It will
I'm not saying that
No,
it's
I
gonna
thought you said they were
become.
all one.
No, I'm saying that the air handler can be in that bay with ductwork run to the living space.
Okay. Could be.
Then you have your heat pump outdoors for cooling, and you have your boiler for heat.
Yeah, they had a bunch of condensers on, so I remember.
my observation was the boilers were just doing the living space, and the garage space had that big overhead natural gas air.
Yeah, yeah.
Does anybody know what's more efficient for heating a big block of cold air? Is it radiant floor or is it,
Radiant floor heating.
that will rewarm that space? In January, all the doors are up, all the equipment's gone. The doors gets closed, you've just lost all that warm air. How do I get it back the quickest is my question.
So the way it usually is in fire stations is your radiant floor heating, and then you have a couple of unit heaters for makeup once all the doors come down. They blow for a few minutes and that's it.
The nice thing with the radiant is, the slab doesn't go off like that.
Stays on.
The
Slab.
air will, but the
Yeah,
slab,
listen,
I've got radiant in my house, so I put it all in there and it's, it's, I like it.
Everybody likes it. I don't know anybody who doesn't like it.
We
remodelers.
didn't put,
You put a nail through the pipe, you're all done.
we didn't put radiant in our building because we air conditioned the garage. And so this time of year, when you need heat in the morning and AC at night, you don't wanna warm up the floor and then be trying to cool it all afternoon.
We're not AC now,
Okay, so do we have any other summarized items to ask Lorero to address? Chief, you've got your list?
We have it in pictogram form,
Okay.
but I understand. So
These are never even
They
listed
sent-
options.
option C, and they dropped it on the parking lot.
What is the green?
The green, I guess, is grass.
Oh, is that the field
But they,
versus-
that's in the parking lot. There's tons of room over here. They neglected, they should have shifted it over, because I don't think the town of Tilton that put in that parking lot wants the building on top of it.
No,
So,
pretty much rest
is
assured
that
on
the
that
police
one.
station?
That's the police station,
That's the police station.
and this is the proposed fire station.
Yeah.
That doesn't look like enough square foot.
No.
How many square foot is the police station?
I don't know. I could have to look it
It's
up.
pretty
in
good
the tax
size.
You don't know?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I think the fire station at 9,700 square feet is bigger than the police station. So that little block doesn't look big enough.
No, he's got the right dimensions, 105, 33.
Is anyone overseeing this architect?
Yes, he has a boss who is the estimator, who I talk to occasionally, who's higher up in the chain of things.
So does Jim Hardy still work there?
Nope, he retired. That's why we hired this company, Jim
I
Hardy
know.
and the architect, and they're both gone. But we had that almost 2-year hiatus between the time we hired him and when we really started cooking, because of all the other stuff that we.
Can I see that photo, please?
Yeah.
How wide is a parking space?
How wide is a parking space?
Yeah.
11 feet maybe.
There's a standard, right?
Well, there's a minimum, but a lot of places,
It's probably close to
Compact
10
cars.
feet.
compact cars are different than.
When I park at the police station, my truck, you know,
Takes it.
it can't be much more than 10 feet.
I think it's 10.
Yeah.
I think the parking spots at the police station are tight.
Yeah, they are tight. For a full-size truck. They're tight.
What are you thinking, they didn't draw it to scale?
Yeah, but I guess, I mean, there's 14 spaces across the front of our police station.
That would be
140
140.
feet, that's probably, and that's 150. We could throw a scale on it, but,
Well,
anyway.
it can get moved over.
So I have a little exercise for you guys if you want.
Okay.
Homework?
No, it's something we can all do here. This is a to scale drawing of the Center Street Fire Station.
Okay.
And this is all our stuff.
What is the limitations of this bay before we get going?
This is 10 feet wide.
Okay, the door is 10 feet wide.
No,
But the building is 10 feet
the
wide.
building's 10 feet wide.
Okay. So the only equipment you can put in there is a pickup truck.
Yes.
Will the forestry truck?
No, you gotta take the mirrors off.
All right.
Because the forestry truck is actually the same
This is the
width
stairs?
as the
I'm
ambulance.
confused as the orientation. This the stairs?
Makes
right
perfect
here?
Yeah,
sense.
those are the stairs
Yeah.
going up.
So this is 1, 2, 3.
And you made us be
How wide is that door, did you say?
The whole room is 10 feet.
Right, so that's, what is that, 8-foot door?
It must be an 8-foot door.
Yeah, because you know what?
Where's the,
I have to fold my mirrors to get in a 9-foot door.
Yeah.
My truck. I thought I was like, I got 9-foot doors.
I put 10s in mine, wish I had 12.
No.
Well, when we were down at that fire station, I'm looking at the doors going, how wide are those doors going?
I had another one.
It's a 14 by 14, and
That
I'm looking at
was
it going, it looks
the
taller
two-bay.
than wide. And it wasn't.
But I have
14 by
3-bay
14
one
is very
here.
see.
But we can make it too big.
Top goes.
One of the
by doing
first things
this.
I saw them, the first time I've ever seen it was on their doors.
One,
They have these
two,
LED light strips,
there we go.
red or green. So when the door's all the way up, it turns green, so the guys don't pull through and take out
I
the
got the
Oh.
door on the way up.
Yeah, pretty slick.
So
I know some people at my house that think
we have to fit all of this stuff because for that 2 years that Park Street doesn't exist or so, we have to fit all of that stuff in these 2 spaces. And so, there's an ambulance, there's an engine. Tanker. An engine. A ladder truck. An ambulance. We can put the pickup in here. We can probably squeeze the forestry or the utility, no, the boat. The utilities, we can't turn it sideways in one guy, it's too hard. So one of those 2 can go here. We still have an ambulance, which can't go outside, has to be inside. And one of those things that have to be inside.
So how many ambulances do you have?
Well, we have 2 right now, but we're gonna have 3.
How many rectangles there say ambulance on it?
3.
Okay. You only have enough staff for 2. The third one is a spare, right?
It's not a spare.
Slide that over.
Well, it is a spare in a sense that we don't normally man it, but we use it. And there's many, many times where one of our ambulances is in for repair or maintenance.
Okay,
And
that's my point. You have 3, but you're only using 2. The
No.
third one is a spare.
it still has to be stored and heated,
Okay, gotcha. If it's not,
accessible.
Why can't it be stored in a garage at Northfield DPW or Tilton DPW? When one of your ambulances goes in for service, you go there, you grab that, you put that one into service. Here's my point, Chief.
Absolutely, it could be if we get permission to do that.
Okay.
It doesn't necessarily.
What we gotta do here, I swear to God, is we gotta think outside the box. We can't just say we have 11 pieces of equipment, we have to have 11 spaces in our fire stations. It's not gonna work. So what we've gotta do is come up with these ideas. Do we need the boat during the winter?
We need access to the
We
boat.
can't put the ambulance there though, it won't fit there, that's.
I'm just throwing things out there. Do we need the forestry truck during the winter when there's snow in the forest? If the answer is yes, then the answer is yes. I'm just saying.
We need it most of the year. There's a certain period of time when you don't need it, when everything's covered with snow. But as soon as the snow melts, we start having fires. So, yes.
So why don't
Night,
we,
everybody.
See you later.
Thank
Hi, Helen. Thank you for coming.
why don't we not tear down the perfectly good garage space we own on Park Street and drop, I don't know how much it costs to build that new again. And I know all about the codes and what we gotta do, but we don't have to do a damn thing with that building because it doesn't meet code today, it doesn't have to meet code.
Oh,
Yeah, we just wanna throttle it instead of keep it, use it, maintain it. That's 5,000 square feet. We're talking about saving 700 square feet. We have an opportunity to save 5,000 and we're not gonna do it.
Well, again, us as a committee, we're working off the mandate that the chiefs have provided us. And that is, or the commissioners, with the chiefs' input. So, with that mandate in mind, we're kind of handcuffed a little bit. I agree with you. We don't need 2 brand new stations right now. We don't.
Not only do I think we don't need them right now, we're not gonna get it approved.
I have the same fear.
Hmm?
I have the same fear.
You know, it's 5,000 square feet. There's 5,000 square feet that we own. It does the job.
So, what's the next logical step? Ask the commissioners, tell the commissioners that we don't feel comfortable with this, we don't see any path to a resolution, have them rethink their recommendation, or?
That's a possibility, but then we go back to being the squirrel,
Well,
right?
I think we just gotta follow through and we go to a warrant vote and if it fails, start over again.
As we're headed, there's no if. I'll bet anything I'll ever have, or have ever had, that if you go to the people and say, we want 2 stations,
We
they
only
are
have
gonna
staff
give
for
you
one.
2 really
We only
big
have staff
middle
for
fingers
one.
and say, thanks, but no thanks.
We'll be asking for staff for 2 at some point.
Right, then you got, and yeah, because,
And we need more men now, and we have no place to put them really.
you know, so, it's,
Let's tear down that tower and move the building away from the garage, and then you can build the big one.
They dropped the proposed new station on the Park Street plot.
oh, you were holding on.
No, I was looking for it. I'm still looking for another piece of paper that I thought I had and I don't.
Nice to
Would just a
say.
simple garage still be off the freaking table for in addition, you know, at Lake Salmon Road? We're looking at pickup trucks, boats and trailers, like, it costs nearly, compared to all of this, to build a stick-built garage is freaking nothing, I mean, for a boat and pickup truck. I mean, you know what, I'm
You
quite
can store it in
content.
my garage and I'll charge the town.
But no, but seriously, I mean, if you just have like, I mean, I don't know, if
Well,
it
you
takes
should-
3 bays or
Yeah,
something,
yeah.
Steel building.
yeah, I mean, it's cheap as hell.
Does anyone in this group know about Morton Building?
pre-engineered, prefab, they come on a truck, you select what size?
For the slab, what about?
And it's a good system.
Well,
But I'm saying, I'm not talking about like for the actual station, but, I mean, like you said, we've got all this boat and trailer, I don't know about forestry, if we don't really respond in the winter to forestry much, do we?
Not when it's
Yeah.
snowing, but,
Right. But I mean, there are, so I guess those, the trailer, I mean, a trailer and pickup, I mean, is the pickup something we use daily?
yes.
But I mean, does it have to be in a heated garage? Can it be in a garage like?
It's not in a garage right now.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm saying if we have a fire, if we have the building, and then, you know, if you look in here, oh, that's the wrong one. But like right up behind there, I mean, like a 3-bay garage, you know what? Just a 3-bay garage with some garage doors. I mean, it's cheap money to build. It's cheap, way cheap money to build.
you're saying build a garage here and no living space. and then
Nope,
add
nope,
all
nope, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying in
Oh.
addition to a new station, so what we're saying, like the chief gave us this to like move
Right.
around. Okay, but if you know, for some of the stuff, it still doesn't, that garage doesn't answer the third ambulance dilemma, okay? But it sure does for the pickup truck, the U3, like here you go. There you go for your garage, you know what I'm saying? Or 3 or whatever, I mean, however that works, you know, but you could do, not a very big garage, it doesn't have to be heated, I mean, for that stuff there, it'd be nice to keep your shit inside so it's not like getting destroyed out in the weather. I mean,
After.
You're saying that temporary,
Okay,
Nope.
they
Or
will
just-
have it.
well, it's gonna, that's at
Or
Center Street.
next meeting,
Center Street's
No,
getting level.
no, yeah, I'm not,
it's
Oh,
next, one
I'm
week
sorry, you're
from
talking about a
tonight.
different site?
1 week
1 week
from
from tonight.
tonight.
That's a commission.
Sorry.
That's
No.
just
No,
a small
June
garage
3rd.
behind here, so.
Oh, right.
Oh, at Sanborn
At
Road.
5.
You build your fire
Okay.
station, and then like right here, we have like a 3-bay.
And then the next week after that-
It's a cold storage garage. We've got electricity out there, you have garage door openers, bada bing, bada bang. You know, it's like Dennis's garage at home, you know, I think my garage is pretty nice, but I mean, I would go with bigger doors. But you know, I've got,
I was talked into bigger doors and I'm glad I did.
Right. You know, I guess my thought would be, before you go down that road, would be, do we solicit the selectmen at Tilden and Northfield and say, do you have room to store in your buildings for, during construction, a piece of equipment? for
Or
us?
we ask other people if they have space.
well,
for-
right, but even after that, you're still gonna have to put, because
No,
if we build a
just-
2-bay over there, we're still not gonna have room for all of this stuff. I'm saying to alleviate, but I'm talking
no, I
about
think-
decreasing the
I think-
cost of that.
Oh, because right now, down at Park Street, you're gonna end up with 5 bays and plus.
Well, if you build the 2 buildings, once both buildings are built, you have enough space. But it's
Okay.
that, all I'm saying is that 2-year span where you don't have,
Are we gonna have all that space if we take that 3rd bay off of the Sandman Road?
yes. In the end, you will have enough space. But
Okay.
it's not gonna be,
Because I knew
it'll
the
be
original-
full.
Right, but I knew the original gig, we had those 3 front doors, you know, or 3
Yeah, so.
in the front, 2 in the back.
I don't
And then we went to
I don't
2-2.
have the Park Street plan, but there's 3 bays across the front, 2 on the side,
Yeah.
and there's extra space in there.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe that was your plan.
So you see how they've drawn this? There's
Right.
6 pieces of equipment in here with some
Mhm.
empty space. And
Right.
so you'd end up with 6 here, 4 here, which gives a total of 10. I think there's a total of 11 pieces of equipment.
Yeah, so the pickup truck would always be outside.
Yeah.
Or,
So
or you
it-
manage to fit it in there.
And this is empty, we're saying, and with no plans of putting anything, you're not looking to put gear out here or anything? At Park
No.
Street?
At Park, that's where the forestry and utility 3 would go on those side doors.
No, I
Right.
understand, but then you've got the ambulance, I'm talking about that big space behind those.
That's, if we build a 2-bay station, yeah, the 3rd ambulance would be there. Or one of the ambulances or the forestry or something like that would be in there. Something else would be in there. No, you would
But
need,
for
let's see,
construction.
engine, tanker, ladder.
Right.
So you'd have to put the tanker in there.
Right, it would
behind-
fit, because we have 11 pieces of
The
equipment.
tanker or it would have to be the tanker that would have to go in there because the ladder wouldn't fit.
Right, so they're
Right.
showing 6 pieces of equipment plus an empty bay.
Right, so yeah, I wasn't, I just realized that again.
So again, you're sitting there going, all right, now the buildings are all full again, but then the comments from multiple people, and they don't see the addition of any more equipment over time, other than at some point maybe a 4th ambulance.
The 4th ambulance, there will be a 4th ambulance at some point in the future. Not too distant, probably.
When it's going.
Well, all the private ambulance companies have kind of gone out of business, haven't they?
I can tell you a lot about that, because I am on a commission that's studying ambulance revenue and billing and legislation to try and help alleviate that. But yeah, most of them, especially them, like Warren Wentworth, they're going out of business. A lot of Pennacook Rescue, they can't even get people to work at nighttime there right now, because they're not paying, because they can't pay, because
I know Lincoln was talking about, they have a private ambulance service, and every year they pay them a little bit. Well, this year they're paying them a lot.
a lot.
Well, I'm not suggesting.
The
we
private,
should-
the private
It
EMS
was just a
service,
comment.
the private EMS service up in Berlin just closed doors suddenly on them, and now the fire department's trying to
So-
do it. They're doing the 911, but they have hospital up there that needs transfers, and there's nobody to transfer somebody from that low acute hospital to Dartmouth or to CMC or
Yeah.
Concord.
And what percentage of our calls are Medicaid, Medicare?
80% of our call volume, 80% of our EMS transports are Medicaid or Medicare.
So if you're a private ambulance service, all you're getting is what they're paying,
Right,
Right.
so you,
which is nowhere near
Nowhere
enough
near
to
what
cover
it
the
costs.
it
cost.
doesn't cover your cost.
Yeah.
So we're making it up.
So the taxpayers are subsidizing the
Yeah,
patients
that
for
would- yeah.
Medicare and Medicaid.
Yeah.
The taxpayers are subsidizing that cost right now. There's a couple lawmakers that think the taxpayers should subsidize the private health insurance payers too. And I was talking to that gentleman, and I told him, if the taxpayers are gonna subsidize all the insurance carriers and Medicare and Medicaid, we would have to increase our operating budget by about $1 million a year. Because we're collecting about, we're going to probably about $700,000, $800,000 this year, but that's gonna keep growing, I think.
But he's pro-socialized medicine too. But, yeah.
No, he's pro-insurance companies.
Oh, so it's even worse.
Yeah.
Managed healthcare is what
Yeah.
he's loved, managed healthcare.
But, I mean, and that's really a tough, so like, here we sit here, like, I mean, Kevin was saying, it's how do you educate the public? I was listening to a guy, he gave a really nice speech about, being a member of your community, what, the responsibilities as a member in your community. Like, a lot of times we promote individualism when it comes to actually shelling out cash. But, I mean, we all live in a community, we all have responsibilities to a community. And I wish I could remember who the hell that guy was, but even still, it's like, how do we, it's a matter of selling, and it's a shame that you have to sell a community on a community or a beneficial municipality, function of the municipality.
And and
It's frustrating.
it's been that way for years.
Yeah.
My ex-wife was emergency room nurse, and she was always like, the kids come and visit, grandma on the weekend, and they're horrified, and so they rush her to the emergency room when she could have gone to her primary care person during the week, and it wouldn't have been an emergency room visit.
Right.
So it's like, how many of these people who call 911, if there was somebody able to take them to their appointment, wouldn't need to call 911? Or if somebody else, was living at
There's a
home with
certain
them.
percentage of that.
Right.
It's not as large a percentage.
But you don't want to
as you think.
dissuade people from calling for help, because sometimes they don't realize the
Realize that they
severity
really need
that
it.
they need.
Right.
They really need the help. So it's like, you don't want to do anything to dissuade them from calling. But, when the helicopter shows up in a car accident, the cost is amazing.
Oh, I know, what the hell.
About 20 grand now.
It is nuts.
Can I ask a question on Park Street, where they showed the building here? The utility, the underground to the, this is the tower, right?
There's two underground.
Where
The gas is here,
Yeah.
and the electric is here. If you go, if you,
Okay.
well, you
So-
don't drive that way.
Yeah,
You
I
can,
see,
though.
I can see it. If they could shift the building, we'd have the Park Street garage there, reverse put parking, build the new building, then you take down the old garage and put your parking on this side. I can see where, electrically, you could probably move. What you say was over here?
Gas.
That can be
The
moved
electrical-
as
It
well.
can be as well.
At a cost, and that's one of the things that Lorero's looking at right now.
We
And
can
there was
park-
nothing in their
We can park
agreement
over the
that-
electrical, right?
You can park over it.
You see what I'm just saying?
Yeah.
If you could shift this, it gives you full use of your garage.
Oh, you're
while
saying
that's
swap where the bays are
constructed.
gonna go?
No,
But the-
No, 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 build a whole new station right
Next to
here,
the old one.
and then
And then
tear the old one down
down
for
later.
parking. Put your parking.
Right. No, okay, I see what you're saying, yeah.
It solves a lot of these problems. But I don't know,
That-
again, and this is what, this is the two-story building.
Yes.
Sometimes the cost of moving utilities is worth it if it saves a functionality like that. But I don't know, I don't know what that costs.
And that, they are looking
But,
at that.
we're already showing, we've already gotten, you're on over half of the building. If you can just shift it enough. And swap parking. I'm just trying to say, can we use this garage while that's built? I don't know.
No,
I don't know the
no,
answer.
it's-
I don't know the
One of
answer.
the reasons we kind of like it where it is,
Yeah.
and it's for pulling out, because this road curves, and the people come around here at 100 miles an hour, that's why the police sit there all the time. I don't think they give any tickets out, but as soon as people see them, they
Right.
hit
Yeah.
the brakes.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of times we're not there, and
They
it's.
come off exit 19, they used to do 70
It's
miles an hour.
so more advantageous to have it be
Right.
coming out down here instead of over here. It just gives you that much more leeway of seeing what's coming.
I was in Florida and the beautiful fire stations down there. Just,
They
I
need,
know.
oh man, but the population down there.
just beautiful stations.
I know.
Well, a little more than 400 apartments just got approved in Tilton last week.
All up here on,
Yep.
We need housing.
Yeah, it's,
I mean,
So
That's
the
a need.
population here is gonna go up.
it is, and that's,
I don't think our call volume's gonna go down. We're a very, very busy little fire department. As you recall, was it Bedford and London area, they get like 13 guys on shift. They do twice as many calls as we have, and they got 13 guys on duty. We have 4 guys on duty.
I know, the math didn't work when I was sitting in the parking lot, just trying to calculate this out in my head, it's like, we do a lot more calls with a lot fewer resources.
if this does, if we put something up and it doesn't pass, I mean, eventually it will, because we're gonna hit a choking point, like you said. It doesn't take long to build apartments, and it takes even less time for people to move in. So,
But
once
nobody
they see
sees
that.
it, nobody sees it except for the fire department.
Oh, I know. Well, they will see it eventually. we will see it eventually. Because if we're gonna choke it up, it's gonna come to a point where it's gotta give, and unfortunately, it's gonna cost a lot more than we're looking at now, and it's, especially when it's an emergency. Because when you're in an emergency, you have to settle for, you just have to.
So
There's no
we
dickering
had an
around.
officers meeting today, and the frustration that my shift commanders are expressing to me because of our call volume. And the problem isn't just us, it's Franklin, Belmont, Sanperton. They're all understaffed as well. And we're at the breaking point where this area can't support the call volume with the number of personnel that we have on duty. It's, because we'll go to Franklin for a fire, then there'll be 2 medical calls here, and there's nobody to go. We don't have the resources anymore. And we'll call, the next nearest ambulance that comes is from New Hampton. So if somebody's having a medical emergency from New Hampton, it takes, 20, 25 minutes to get here.
It is fascinating, and you only wish you could get people to do it if they know it's happening, but it's like every time we get a fire call, like for Franklin, I'll log into and listen to the dispatch, and
We strip the area out, there's nothing left when there's a
You know,
fire.
So regionalization is not even an option. I mean, we are regionalized for all intents and
We are,
purposes.
right.
I mean,
But you're assuming that, it's kind of like, well, we have mutual aid. Well, if we're having a bad weather day,
yeah.
They need
so is everybody
Right,
else.
exactly.
There's
Yeah.
no mutual
Not a lot
aid.
of distance between Franklin, Tilton,
But
and
yeah,
Salem.
you see our whole staff over there in Franklin, because that last time it happened, and, they called Belmont to come for ambulance, but Belmont's already off doing something, and, another 6 minutes go by, and now they're toning out somebody else, and you're sitting going, the person who dialed 911 in Tilton has no idea that everybody's
Right.
busy. They just know nobody's showing up.
Right.
But how do you educate the public that says, well, you're doing fine now, right?
I
They
don't-
think you're doing fine
I
now.
don't know how you do that.
And now we're proposing 2 what would be perceived as large fire stations.
You know what really is I'm not answering your question, but the real unfortunate thing that's going on in our community right now is those that show up to vote are those that are not going to suffer or not going to, I don't want to say enjoy the long-term expense of a bond for the most part. I mean, we have, it's mostly a small portion of an older population that shows up at district meetings. And if you're going to talk about like 20, 30 year, I don't know what kind of bonds we're looking at. But you know what, that population, that sector of our population just doesn't show up. They're just uninvolved. And eventually, I mean, they're not gonna have a choice. So when you have 25-year-olds.
The 20-year bond doesn't affect them, you're saying? That's what you're
No, it will affect them. I mean, anybody, if you're a 25-year-old right now, you're going to be affected by a long-term bond.
Right.
You know what, if you're 75 years old right now, the likelihood you'll be affected for an extreme amount of time. And generally speaking, those people are on, they've got lower tax rates and all 9 yards anyhow. So the population that's gonna suffer the brunt of the tax burden doesn't get involved.
Right.
It's crazy. It's amazing.
And I sometimes I also look at that crowd that shows up at the district meeting and how sensitive, what percentage of people are intimately affected by the increase in taxes and the least able to afford it. And if you want a perfect example of that, is you see how the mobile home tax burden went up, especially in Tilton when they revitalized. They were severely undervalued because they're mobile homes. But then when you start looking at how much they're selling for, and so, my taxes went up, 10%, and theirs went up 50.
Yeah.
And now when you go out and look at the homes for sale, you should see all the mobile homes that are for sale right now, because those people can't afford to stay there. So it's like, all right, where are they going? Is that the straw that broke the camel's back, and now they're moving in with one of their kids, or?
It's not as big as the mobile home population, but one population that really got hammered, even more towards the 70-some-odd% with those who bought like those motel rooms on the water that they now call condos. And they bought, those people got freaking hammered.
Well, I know somebody up on Boggers Bay, and I'm looking at the listing, and they sold this hotel room for $350,000.
Well, it's not a hotel room anymore, it's a condo.
It looks, I wouldn't even stay in it as a hotel room, let alone paying $350,000 for it. And,
But anyway,
All
we
right, we
digress.
digress.
All right, where do we want to go from here?
all right, so you
I
have
have my marching direction for Sanborn Road.
right.
Well, I think next meeting, 1 week from tonight, we need to finalize Sanborn Road. If,
I may not have those drawings back by then.
then let's.
But we haven't.
But we can
have we
move
looked
on
at
to Park.
Park Street, you have the drawing. I know you have questions about it, but I sat down with the guys, they love it.
I think it's workable. My only thought were, there, like this back staircase and the hallways around it just take up so much square footage.
That's the part they love the most.
Okay, and it's like, how can you make a stairway take any more room? And I think we've done that.
Am I looking at the same one?
Option E.
Option E.
Yep, I've got option E. Okay, when I looked at yours real quick, I thought it looked pretty.
And then the only other thing was, up on the second floor, do we really need all those lockers, or do we?
That's just the space left over. The upstairs is way larger than we need it to be
Because of the downstairs.
because of the downstairs.
So would it be, my thought is, with all those lockers, would it be more effective to make the rooms slightly bigger if they need to be, so that you put all the lockers in the rooms? Because that was a comment that came
Oh,
out.
yeah, they like the lockers
They
in the
like the lockers in the rooms.
I personally like the lockers in the room, but the feedback I got from the guys was that they would rather not have the lockers in the room.
Really?
And I think it's a mistake, because I've lived both ways throughout my career, and I personally love the locker in the room.
So
The hack is, if somebody comes in early and they've had a number of calls at night, the guys like to sleep a little bit past 7, and then the on-duty guy has to go into that room to get his
Okay.
stuff.
Okay, got it.
I was wondering what the reason would have been, but that makes sense.
It makes sense.
It makes sense.
And so, the last fire station I built, the lockers actually were the wall, and you could open them from inside the room or inside the hallway.
Oh.
But I don't
That
remember what.
probably adds another big.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the lockers were non-structural, so you had to have the beam above it to carry the load of the attic and stuff like that.
So these are
we'll save that
smaller
for next
rooms.
time.
These are 8 by 8.5 by what? The other dimension?
I think that's
10.
8 by 10 is plenty big.
It is.
For a room?
Yeah.
Oh, God, yeah.
The smaller the better, as long as you can fit the locker, well, in my mind, fit the lockers, a bed and a nightstand. You don't need anything else in there.
I'll exercise a motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
7:23. Thank you, Lauren. Next meeting, I already said it, but next Tuesday at 5:30.